Welcome to project number 3. Now project 3 is called 0101, and what we're going to talk about is stretching type. Now, didn't we just stretch type in project number 1? Well, yes, and we actually stretched type in project number 1 using HTML and CSS. We added some content in HTML and then we stretched it using CSS. So what's different? Well, in this way, what we're going to do is start by adding JavaScript to our project. Now wait a minute, we used JavaScript in the last project and it seemed a little bit fiddly and hard to use. Well, luckily there are libraries that help us out. Now we're going to be using a library called P5 as part of this project. As you can see here, P5 is a JavaScript library for creative coding. It's trying to make coding accessible. JavaScript itself is quite a tricky language to use and it's not a beginner-friendly language. Now, once you get over the learning curve of JavaScript, it gets a lot easier. So what we're going to do instead is remove a little bit of that learning curve by using P5. And as you can see, if you click on Get Started on the website, it's actually pretty easy to set up in the project. We need two functions in our project called Setup and Draw. We put our setup code in Setup, and then we draw stuff in Draw. So what we have on this page is we set up things like the font and how the canvas should look, and then what we do is we draw this kind of movement in our page. Now, why don't we just stretch type? What we can do as part of P5 and JavaScript is actually do a lot more with typography and change it in a very different way. We're going to start by kind of cloning what we did in project number 1 by stretching type, and instead we'll start to break type a little bit later. So how do we actually set up a project with P5? Well, the first thing that I'm going to do is go to my projects list and I'm going to create a brand new project from scratch. Just like we do on every single project, I'm going to give it a name, 0101. I'm going to create this project, and what this will do is it will land me in a kind of default setup, kind of what we've had every single time. The first thing I'm going to do is actually remove all parts of the content here. So all of it is going to go. Now the reason for this is the content that we're going to draw on our page is actually drawn using JavaScript. It isn't HTML content. Basically we're having some canvas that is being drawn by JavaScript itself. So what we're going to do in our style sheet is basically place it in the middle of the page. So how do we do that? Now at the moment we don't have anything like a H1, so we're going to remove that. We don't have any width and margin, we're going to remove that. We actually don't have any typography as well. We'll keep that in here for now. We do have a background color, and we do have some text color. And if I go into my project download, I can see in my content.txt, I can open it up using any kind of text editor. So Microsoft Word will do. I can use my yellow color as the background. Here we go. I'm going to copy and paste that in, and my red color as part of this one as well. But at the moment, we'll just see a background color. That's because there isn't any content on the page. So in my index.html, there isn't anything there. What we want to do is add some JavaScript. And also we want to use the P5 library as well. So again, back in my project 3 download, I've got my assets. And in here, I've got two files. I've got p5.min.js, and I've also got a font file, which we'll come to a little bit later. But I'm just going to add them both to my project. Here we go. So I'm uploading these kind of files. So I've got this p5.min.js, and this is a really big, ugly file. We don't have to worry about this because we're not writing in this project, in this file. We're actually writing in that own file in a minute. So how does this look on the page at the moment? Again, the same as what it was. But how do we add P5 to a project? And also, how do we add our own script to the project? Well, we need our own script to start with. So I'm going to add in here a new file underneath P5 called script.js. In here is where we're going to put all of our code. P5 is a library that we're not going to touch. This just kind of comes as standard. Other people have written this for us to make JavaScript easier. But we need to add these two files into our index.html. So I'm going to start by putting it in a script tag. And this first script tag has a source, src, of which one? Well, we need to install P5 before we can write any of our own scripts. We need to put on our socks before our shoes. So we're going to put on p5.min.js. And then below this, we're going to have our own area to write in. Our script tag, src, is script.js. So I've installed P5 first, which means it loads before everything else. then I can use P5 in my own code. So if I look at the page right now, I'll still see nothing. What we're going to do in the next video is we'll start by adding a little bit of code to show you how P5 works.